Hello there, I'm Megan Ennis of the Shared Value Initiative. Our site, sharedvalue.org, is a free online community where nearly 3,500 leaders from business, nonprofits, and governments are discovering better and more profitable ways to solve social problems. This is the fourth installment in a series where we're speaking to some of those leaders who are making shared value a reality at their organizations. Today, we're speaking with Sofia Perazzo, who is Executive Director of Fundacion Tropicalia, which is a foundation arm of the sustainable tourism/real estate venture Tropicalia, which is located in the Dominican Republic. So Sofia is here to talk about how her firm addressed the unique challenge of creating shared value in the luxury services business while operating in a more impoverished area. So Sofia, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great. So to start out, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Fundacion Tropicalia and your role there?
Sure. Well, let me just start by giving you a brief introduction into who we are and what our company does. We're part of the Cisneros Group. It's a privately held media and entertainment organization headquartered in Miami, Florida. And a few years ago, we began to take interest in the Dominican Republic to take on a new real estate venture in the tourism industry, hence the birth of Tropicalia, our sustainable tourism real estate development or investment founded in 2007. So when we arrived to the scene, Tropicalia is actually located in the municipality of Miches in northeastern Dominican Republic. When we arrived, the social and economic climate of the surrounding community gave birth also to our corporate foundation. It was absolutely imperative that we start working with the community, particularly since we wanted, or we always envisioned being part of the sustainable tourism niche. So in 2008, we founded the Fundacion Tropicalia years prior to breaking ground. And for the last 6 years, the foundation has been implementing community development programs in the municipality of Miches.
Great. That sounds awesome, and that is really helpful context for our conversation today about the foundation and where it sits in the company. So why don't we talk now about your work through the lens of shared value? And why don't you tell us about how the approach of shared value became a reality at the foundation?
Sure. I think it's helpful to note that the foundation's mission and the business mission are completely aligned. So it's a really interesting dynamic between a for-profit and a non-profit mission, which actually speaks to the heart, I think, of what shared value is. So what's our mission, both inside and out in the business and in the foundation? Well, it's to drive sustainability inside and outside of Tropicalia and to become a leader in the sustainable luxury tourism industry. So intrinsically, to become a sustainable tourism destination, basic concepts need to be integrated into your business model, like minimizing environmental impact or promoting local culture, responsible solid waste disposal, amongst other things. So the concept of sustainable tourism actually provides a really viable business model that allows us to tackle a multitude of challenges and contradictions that we come into play, that we encounter on the ground. So for instance, where our guests will spend an average of thousands of dollars per stay, 60% of the population where we plan to source goods, services, and employment lives in poverty. So here's where the shared value framework comes into play. So the social needs in an impoverished community like Miches are really overwhelming. How do you focus on just, what do you do? How do you focus on just one viable program or one program that will render a lot of impact for both the business, again, the business, the foundation, and the community to all thrive? We answered this using catalytic philanthropy and several CSR strategies to address important human development issues, like via productivity, environment, education, and cultural and well-being programs. Those are our 4 issue areas that we tend to work on. And this was the first step that we took in order to build a shared value platform. So for instance, we couldn't work in education before attending to the very basic needs of a school center. The schools that we encountered when we were in Miches were in conditions that were, there weren't functioning restrooms, or there was a leak in the roof, or there's no electricity. So it was really hard to implement education programs that would help develop teachers or, you know, give them new skills when basic needs weren't being satisfied. So to some extent, you have to do catalytic philanthropy or strategic philanthropy in order to set that base for a shared value initiative. And I think that's what the foundation has been doing for the last 5 years. As a result, you know, you undergo a maturation process as an NGO, getting to know your community stakeholders, getting to know who the other players are in the development world, creating a name for yourself. And as a result, we were able to finally strike a really wonderful partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank and the Multilateral Investment Fund of the IDB. That partnership came to fruition in 2013, just last year, and we partnered to address market access opportunities and local economic productivity via the inclusion of micro and small enterprises in the sustainable tourism supply chain in niches. And this is a project valued at $1.6 million, and it's scheduled to be executed over a 36-month time period. So where Tropicalia needs to source quality goods and service at volume and mitigate risks associated with traditional tourism like exploitation, prostitution, environmental degradation, the community needs employment opportunities and market access. So in other words, where we need supply, the community needs demand. But we've encountered a community that lacks the capacity to satisfy future market demands. So of course, you know, typical, easy, short-term solution from an operations or an economic standpoint would be to source our needs from established providers in Santo Domingo and Punta Cana or even internationally. But our commitment, again, is to the sustainable development of the entire destination. So we move beyond the borders or the walls of our business, where our business will specifically be operating, into the actual municipality and beyond. And thereby, you know, secure prosperity long-term for Tropicalia and the region. So this vision for business translated into a meaningful partnership with the IDB to cultivate local supply and demand for niches and Tropicalia. Over the next months, we'll be training farmers and entrepreneurs to diversify agricultural production and tourism services, obtain organic certification, secure volume via cooperatives, and become suppliers to Tropicalia and other anchor companies who are interested in incorporating these small producers or small and micro enterprises into their own supply chains.
Great. That is an awesome, very comprehensive view of what you guys are doing. It's a story of partnerships, a story of, you know, workforce development, and really doing more for the immediate cluster community around you. So, and it sounds like, you know, the programs are fairly new since the partnership, you know, with IDB came to fruition just last year. But we would still actually like to hear if you have any initial or even projected results in this case that you're seeing with the program that are creating both business and social impact. We'd love to hear you share that.
Sure. I mean, it's been overwhelming. Yes, it's a young program. It hasn't been without really interesting first-year lessons learned and results. First and foremost, the amount of interest the community has taken in participating in this program has been totally overwhelming. So that was something that we weren't expecting, really. We thought we would have to be, you know, taking the message out to the streets more consistently, and really the community got it right away, and they jumped on board with the opportunity right away. So much so that we've had to separate them into groups so as to phase their participation into the project. So we have so many people who want to join our program that we actually have to prioritize them and separate them into groups, like who's ready to go now, who needs a little bit more training, who needs a little more resources, and categorize them in that way so that they can enter into the program accordingly. Second, as part of the actual project design, you know, the design of the project that was approved by the IDB and that we're actually executing right now, the supply chain isn't meant to just supply the needs of Tropicalia. This is a supply chain that is being harnessed so that it can they can actually be suppliers to other anchor companies. So what does it take to be an anchor company? It's not just a question of supply and demand. I'm a company, I have a demand, and in niches there's supply, so let me go and negotiate, the price. It's more about anchor companies who are interested in development through the incorporation of small and micro entrepreneurs into their supply chain. And that means that they have to do a little more beyond just sourcing their goods and services. It's more like investing in something like in their capacity building, whether it be infrastructure or training programs, or offering more competitive prices for their products and services. So with that said, we've been able to actually connect our first suppliers, this first group that's being trained and scaled up, to about 3 to 5 potential anchor companies that aren't Tropicalia. There are other companies in the Dominican Republic that are willing to participate in this program and are really excited about the program. So this has been an overwhelming response. We were really nervous about the demand and the actually being able to make that connection between novice suppliers, because this is the first time that our beneficiaries are, organizing themselves to be able to supply a good or a service to an actual company. Most of their activity has been really informal and managed through intermediaries where informality prevails. So this has been a really exciting first results, I guess, in the first 10 months of execution of the project. So, as for end results, by March of 2016, which is the due date, I guess, of producing all these results that we devised with the IDB and with the design of the project, we hope to certify 300 farmers in organic production. We hope to establish 1 cooperative and strengthen 3 existing associations, establish a post-harvest warehouse managed by this new cooperative, sign at least 10 contracts between producer and anchor companies, guaranteeing prices and market access, establish 10 new micro and small enterprises that will provide goods and services to different anchor companies, increase farmers' wages by 30%, create a new microfinance tool offered at preferential interest rates, which actually that's already on the go. We already have our first clients signed up to that financial product, and the complete elimination of toxic chemicals in the farming practices and niches, among many other indicators. And I think also I just would close really quickly with, this is not just results for the beneficiary is the farmer or the micro entrepreneur of niches, but I would argue that there's another beneficiary in this scheme, and that's actually Tropicalia and the anchor companies. So what do we gain as a result? And this is where the shared value concept really gets highlighted. As a result, for business, we establish and gain access to a local market of quality goods and services in desired volumes. We reduce risks associated with conventional tourism destinations. We mitigate environmental degradation. We increase our technical knowledge and ability to problem solve, and we continue nurturing genuine relationships with our community stakeholders. And I think that's something, you can't ask for more of a win-win from what is seemingly a social or community investment. It's actually a business investment as well.
That is really excellent, and it sounds like you're well on your way to, between the demand, the people who want to be involved, and all of the supplier success that you've had. It sounds really like you're well on your way to success, even so early. Well, and so on that note, on the other hand, we were curious about what has been most challenging about this process, and maybe some lessons that you learned along the way.
Sure. I mean, it sounds really great when you're summing up all the results. There's a lot of sweat and hard work behind getting there. I can't move on without actually giving a shout out to our executing team. The project coordinator, my team in niches. They're the ones, and also all the support we've received from the CEO down to the general manager of our business. I mean, we've had complete and utter support on all levels, and I think that's essential to being able to, even talk about these kinds of initial results. And then, of course, time will tell how long the impact is or how long the results will be in the future. With that said, going back to, where Miches is located, it's located in the northeastern part of the Dominican Republic. It's quite inaccessible, hence its beauty as well. It's kind of a paradise. And so, our main challenge has been the difficulty in identifying really talented consultants that are willing to work in a remote location. That's always been something, since we started working, it's been our biggest challenge working in Miches, is finding that human, that talent that wants to really, get in there and make a difference. The work isn't for the light of spirit. It's really hard. It's sometimes depressing. We work in in the context of poverty. So you need that person that has a really deep social vein and that entrepreneurial spirit that understands that we're building something totally new. And that's the excitement of the opportunity, right? As for lessons learned, you need perseverance to see the project through, be willing to design it and redesign it dozens of times and secure the right partners for execution. That's key. We learned that risk-taking is essential if you want to do something innovative. Our project isn't perfect. The main risk identified is that Tropicalia might not be operating when the supply chain becomes completely available. However, as a best practice, the actual design of the project gives us flexibility and creative freedom to anticipate these challenges and design contingencies. So we've identified other anchor companies. Our project always contemplated the participation of a wider market, and that helps us stave off any associated risk with the business. Another best practice is that we consolidated our social investments via our foundation years prior to breaking ground and prior to taking on the project with the IDB. And I think this is essential because we know the in and out of our community. We're always learning every single day, but it's not like we hit the ground running with the project in hand and we're getting to know the actors. We already know the actors, and actually thanks to this project, we've expanded, or we've been able to even work more profoundly with the community. We spent years building these genuine relationships with leaders, and this delivers immediate value by mitigating risks and improving our on-the-ground and problem-solving abilities. And finally, the institutional strength. It has been incredible. It's been an incredible journey for our NGO. Like I said, we were established just 6 years ago. And so when we first started working, it was just one guy on the ground and me in New York traveling with my boss, and we were traveling. And fast forward 6 years later, we have an office, and we have now a team of 5 people, and we have these really solid programs, and all of that has been testament to our institutional strengthening over time. So those have been the main takeaways and challenges.
That is a great story, and I feel like you've come on such a journey to arrive at this point, and really it's kind of even just begun. And all of this relationship building has been, between the partnerships and either the buy-in from leadership and the rest of your companies. It's a great story, and we're really interested to see where it's going to go.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to check in with you guys and give you different updates, and hopefully we'll reach all those goals that I had mentioned before.
Awesome. Well, yeah, sounds good. Well, that's great, and that's all the time we have, actually. So thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to talk to the Shared Value Initiative. And we do hope you check in with us soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks again. And you, our viewers, actually can read more about Shared Value Initiatives like the one at Fundacion Tropicalia in the community at sharedvalue.org. While you're there, we invite you to become a community member, where you can network directly with other leaders in the field and receive regular updates on how leaders like Sofia and others are driving social change in their businesses. Thanks so much for tuning in.